What it do, cuckolds? It's your boy, the Hater, and it's time for yet another video, alright? Let me put it to you this way, okay? Now it's been a couple of weeks since the Elimination Chamber, which means that we would expect some form of advancement of the storyline. Now we got about a month left, and you know that one of the things that we're going to see is going to be a contract signing. So let's take that out of the way, and we're going to have the first confrontation and the last confrontation. If we're so lucky, we might even see just one of those. But the fact of the matter is that this is by far the worst booking of any WrestleMania ever. Let me put it to you this way, right? We had that cuckold, Cucky Rhodes, come out and say basically a couple of times now that he's going to beat John Cena. That's basically all that's happened. Now ask yourself, let's say instead of John Cena, let's just say it was Kevin Owens or Randy Orton or someone that has been a heel many times in the past, and they did the same thing, right? Clearly, if that were the case, not one person would care at all. It would be a throwaway match, right? A throwaway program, and therefore, in all likelihood, a throwaway WrestleMania. Now, with all that being said, the question becomes, well, we are looking forward to John Cena revealing why he did it. But even if he reveals something that we didn't think of before, which is very unlikely, might I add, it doesn't really matter, right? Because he's going to reveal it God knows when, you know? Apparently, I think March 17th, he's going to be on Raw. But would you be shocked if on March 17th he comes out and doesn't say anything? You know, like either he just straight up says nothing and drops the mic and walks away, or instead he comes out and like Cody Rhodes attacks him or something, you know what I mean? Furthermore, we need to hear from The Rock, right? And at this point, there's not enough time to do all of these things cohesively. Normally there would be, because you have like, let's liberally say that you have 10 more shows, right? 10 more Raws and SmackDowns where you could flesh this out. We all know that we're not going to see the Cuckster and The Rock and John Cena at the same time, maybe ever until WrestleMania. If we do, we're going to see it once, right? What about Travis Scott? Is that not going to be resolved at all? Like, why the hell this guy was there? Cody Rhodes isn't going to say, I want to whoop his ass because he slapped me? You know, none of these things are going to happen. Let's be honest, right? The entire WrestleMania main event is predicated on the Cena heel turn, right? Now, some of you are excited about that, and I understand the excitement because I get it, right? Cena's never been heel effectively because he was a heel in the early days, but you know what I mean? He hasn't been heel forever. This heel turn is a big deal because John Cena turned heel. But that's it. That shit already happened, right? Cena already turned heel. So what are we looking forward to? You know? If the heel turn had been safe for WrestleMania, like I said, you could have had this bullshit build, right? Where Cena says, I'm going to do it. And then Cody says, no, you're not, right? They get a little tense. You know, they tease some sort of like heel dynamics. The Rock is hovering in the background. And The Rock, like, is trying to convince Cody to turn heel. And then Cena turns heel and you have this massive moment. The one that they had at Elimination Chamber, except you have it at WrestleMania, you know? Now, the problem is we have a lot of problems within this context of the storyline, if you want to even call it that, because there is no storyline. And that's the other point that I wanted to make, actually. There is no actual storyline. A story needs to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it needs to have some sort of development within it, right? The development thus far has all been manufactured. In other words, if the development wasn't selected by the bookers to be what it is, none of this would make any sense, right? At least thus far. You know what I mean? On March 14th, Pi Day, cucks, the birthday of one of the Haters' best friends, by the way. Just got off a call with him, you know? So with all that being said, the reality is that this storyline is just a bunch of random events happening with basically zero connection to one another that they're trying to get us to connect, you know, in the subtext, right? First of all, Cucky Rhodes, like, already feuded with The Rock last WrestleMania, right? All of a sudden, after that, The Rock and Cucky are friends. This was never explained. This was never shown as a development of the storyline. It's just that one day, they're friends. The Rock comes out. He's basically a face when he first returned. And Cody Rhodes is in the crowd for some reason. And he's like, Cody Rhodes, I respect you. And then Cody Rhodes is out there like laughing and smiling and saying thank you, right? And it's like every viewer at that point, even viewers that have been watching for only 1 year, all those people at the same time probably thought, wait, what? They were bitter enemies. The Rock beat his ass and put the blood on the belt, right? But because Cody is just this like degenerate human being who doesn't have the capacity one way or another to like determine what his stance is on people that he doesn't like, he's just this gullible fool, almost like Rey Mysterio. You know how Rey Mysterio, all of his tag team partners inevitably betray him? You know, we're waiting for Dragon Lee to do the same at some point. You know, all of his partners betray him, like 100% of them. And it brings a question to how smart the character of Rey Mysterio is. Like, how gullible are you, right? Cody Rhodes, almost as gullible as Rey Mysterio, befriends The Rock again. And then what happens? Well, I'll tell you what happens. The Rock does the exact same thing he did last year, this year, right? He betrays Cody Rhodes, and he shows that he doesn't like him, because that's how it started last year too. They were friends, and then The Rock felt disrespected, and he whooped his ass, right? Same thing happened this year. That, like, the path they took to this might have been slightly different, but it wasn't a complete path, because it started out with the premise that they're friends. Believe us, they resolved it off screen. Well, I need you to resolve it on screen if you want me to buy into this whole situation, right? Otherwise, it just feels like they are friends and they're pretending to do this because WrestleMania is around the corner, which is exactly what's happening, right? Now, the John Cena heel turn, right? Now, some people predicted it, right? The hater kind of saw it coming, but I'm not going to say that I knew it was going to happen. Absolutely not. But anyone that predicted it or kind of saw it coming was able to kind of do this using like general wrestling conventions, right? It's like, you know, a process of elimination. You know from general convention that the main event is likely not going to be face versus face. So the question then becomes, will Cody Rhodes turn heel? And if the answer to that question is no, which is obviously a possibility, then logic would dictate that the other side of the equation would turn heel. Now, at the time, we didn't know that Cena was going to win the Chamber, but that was probably the most likely person to do it. And it wouldn't matter, right? And that's kind of the problem itself, right? It would make no difference, let's say, if CM Punk did this and turned heel, right? It would just be more consistent with his character. The storyline itself would play out the exact same way. The fact that John Cena is the one that turned heel is only interesting in the context of the heel turn in a vacuum. Otherwise, who cares who the other guy is, right? Who the bad guy is or who the good guy is. It's Cody versus Cena. Cena happens to be heel. That's interesting. You might make an argument that it's also interesting in the context of the match, right? Maybe Cena will do some like heel things that we haven't seen, and that's kind of like fun. But the storyline is left the same exact way, cuckolds. The fact of the matter is exactly what I've been saying it is. You have a situation where the storyline is not being advanced, but for these, you know, staggered little moments where they say something like, oh, this happened or that happened. Don't worry, it didn't happen in front of you, but just take our word for it. It happened, right? So even the heel turn is predicated on some form of agreement between John Cena and The Rock, obviously, right? The Rock knew Cena was going to turn heel, but it's like, we don't know why. We don't know what the agreement is. And I'm sure they're going to tell us that, but it's not going to be anything that makes any sense, and it's not going to be anything that is specific to Cena. In fact, I think it's the opposite. I think it's going to be anti-specific to Cena, because Cena is the opposite, right? Cena is someone that's like The Rock, right? He's not Cody Rhodes, who needs to have his career like blossom because he hasn't done anything other than wrestle. Cena is a multi-talented guy with a lot of different streams of revenue. The Rock doesn't have the power to improve Cena's career, just like Cena doesn't have the power to improve The Rock's career. They're effectively equals. It's just that The Rock is 10 years ahead because he's been doing it for 10 more years. Otherwise, they're basically the same thing, you know? So that's what I'm getting at. Cena is on the path to becoming the next Rock anyways. So why is he taking this deal? None of this makes sense. And lastly, I want to say one thing. The storyline is very hateable because The Rock is at the center of it. Now, I have no problems, obviously, with The Rock being involved in a WWE or even a specific WrestleMania storyline. The Rock is great. But what I don't like is in that little, like, you know, press conference thing they did afterwards, The Rock basically took all the credit. He was like, I told Cena, I'm proud of you. You know, and it's like, what? Like, The Rock is booking things now? I thought this was the Triple H era. This was the Paul Levesque era. Well, the Paul Levesque era is complete shit if the only interesting thing has nothing to do with Paul Levesque. As a matter of fact, have we seen him address this at all? All these things are happening around him. You know, yes, I'm sure he okayed it, but The Rock presented it as this was like him and his writer and other people that were involved in making the storyline, right? they decided to pretty much hijack the show and create this storyline between two guys who are nearly 40. One of them is in his mid-40s. Another 50-year-old. And because Cody Rhodes is the youngest of these guys, Cody Rhodes is a young guy. He's only 7 years younger than Cena. You know what I mean? The problem is that he feels young because the vast majority of his career was complete and utter mediocrity where he accomplished nothing, right? That's the only difference. But The Rock being at the center of this, it doesn't smell good if you smell what the hater's cooking. It feels forced. It feels like they had nothing to do, so they gave it to The Rock, right? And that's exactly what's happening. There's nothing here at WrestleMania that we have to look forward to. You know, the Triple H booking, The Rock booking, it doesn't even matter who's booking it. The facts are that this is the worst booked WrestleMania of all time. Now, I'm sure some of you neckbeards are thinking WrestleMania 4 wasn't as well booked. I don't watch that shit, you know? I'm talking about from the Attitude Era, from when these things started to matter, you know what I mean? I don't care about like Hulk Hogan, all that stuff. I don't even know how that was booked. I don't even know what the format was of like Raw back then, right? Or how they would even get the storyline across. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the things that I know about. This is the worst booked WrestleMania ever. And honestly, it's probably worse than those anyways. So there you have it, cucks. Take care of yourselves and go fuck your mothers.